Our Jefferson Development Corporation meeting has been called to order. We've done the pledge. Privilege of the floor. I don't believe we have guests. That doesn't mean anyone else can speak as they wish. Minutes, page 3. They've been received, hopefully reviewed, and if so, have a motion to accept them. So moved. Bill's the first.
Second.
Christine would be a second. I can hear so much better on this side. I gotta start sitting over here. Usually I can't tell who's talking.
You're throwing my hearing.
I don't know.
It's like you're in the wrong part of the room.
Yeah. So we have a first and second. Any clarifications, discussions, or changes? With that, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Moving to the treasurer's report, page 8, Paul, please.
I thought you would have replaced me in this one. You didn't
No,
hear?
we all voted to just Dr. Pay.
Well, I didn't see a whole lot of deviations from what the expectations were. There would be the major drop within the grant expense, but that was only $20,000. The Prenzio markets and the receivables is 60 days late, but they tend to run and they get caught up, and it's under $500 for the total. Their monthly payment is $89, so it's probably just a seasonal thing again. The balance sheet is in line with the rest of the report. No major deviations there, and that's all I really noticed after missing a month. Unless somebody has questions.
We have a motion to accept the report.
I moved.
Second, please. Excuse me.
Second.
First was Rob, second was John. Any other discussion or questions for Paul? With that, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. That moves us to council reports. Jay, you're up.
All right, well, first of all, thank you to everybody who was able to make it to the presentation by Dr. Cole. It was, I think, a great program. Very excited to pull that off. The responses that I've been getting have been fantastic. Last night I met with Farm Bureau and FFA students, and the FFA students, all of them, we were asking them about what they thought, and the FFA students that attended the program were ecstatic, especially Morgan Hodge, who we had serve as our MC. She was very excited. Dr. Cole, if for those that aren't aware, Dr. Cole actually took time out of the schedule he had for the day to meet with one student who couldn't be there, Joseph Canzanier from Belleville Henderson. And Joseph said it was probably one of the best conversations he's ever had. I can move my seat. Absolutely. So it was hey Greg. It was a fantastic program, and again, we almost sold out, so that part was cool. Not that we were selling seats. The budget for the program, I just had it here. The budget for the program I had at $14,000. Thanks to Jefferson Community College, we only spent $6,000 for the entire program. So that money, the money that we raised, which was about $10,500, will now roll into the Dairy Parade budget. And then we sold it that way to the sponsors, that what we don't use for the seminar goes into the Dairy Parade. So really excited on how it turned out. The big challenge, and I was talking to Ed about this the other day. The big challenge is how do we top it for next year? So he was just that phenomenal a speaker. Other items, Joel alone did a presentation from Center for Community Studies, did a presentation for the Ag Council recently. They had an opening on their board of directors. Joel asked me if I would represent agriculture on the board of directors for the Center for Community Studies board of directors. So I'm now doing that, and as a result, we've been able to add 5, 6 questions, 7 questions into the upcoming spring survey of the community that they're doing. Those questions were developed by the Ag Council, recommended to the Board of Directors for the center, and we actually have 25 question list. They narrowed it down to these questions. One of them deals with the solar issue and the concern for farmland. Others deal with local food, what's the importance of local food to the community. One deals with coursework in schools with agriculture. And then one in particular is going to focus on our local food grant program. Talks about the grants that have been awarded to increase local food. And is this something that Jefferson County should continue? So I think it'll be a valuable question to see what results we get. Other than that, Joy and I have just been going great guns besides everything else Joy is doing, rolling out the contracts, and I have a reimbursement request, the first reimbursement request for the new round of grants to issue a check for. Bart's Apples down in Ellisburg, he purchased a UV light system to sterilize his cider so that he could sell it. So now he'll begin selling his apple cider in the fall commercially to the public. So that's the type of good things that keep coming out of these grant programs. So it's pretty exciting to see. That, I know you have a lot on the agenda, so I'll stop there unless anybody has any questions.
Questions for Jay?
I don't have a question, just a couple remarks. Yeah, that was a fantastic presentation that you put on, but there was, credit to yourself, and I'm not sure, Robin, maybe the whole team put that together. I'm sure you
It's a
volunteers
team
too, but from the food from the college to just the welcoming, walking in, and his presentation is very engaging. Having the FFA there was huge. It was into packet. That's, I think, possibly you get the RSVPs, but you're also probably wondering if they're going to show at 6 o'clock in the evening, right?
Yeah.
And they did. People came out, so it was really interesting. And he spoke. The topics wasn't just agriculture. He was speaking globally.
Yeah.
So which impacts all of us. It was very impressive. So kudos. It was great.
Thank you. And it was a team effort, including the Ag Council itself. All of us put in a lot of work, and we always try to make that program sometimes not as obvious as others, but we try to blend the keynote speakers so that it appeals to the other businesses in the community in addition to agriculture, because we want to show the rest of our economic sectors the role that agriculture plays. So that's a very purposeful activity. And this was the best work we've done to that end. So thank you.
How many schools have FFA chapters in the county?
6.
And how many students?
Ballpark. I would estimate 6 times 40, so 240 students roughly involved. Some schools handle their FFA a little bit differently than other schools. Some schools, it's a place to put students where you don't have any other places to put them, which is very disappointing. Not that we don't want those students, but that they don't treat their FFA more a little bit higher level. And then you've got the schools that there's a real emphasis on that programming. As a dad, my past involvement in Boy Scouts of America. If my son hadn't done Boy Scouts of America, I would have strongly encouraged him to be in FFA, not because I do agriculture, but because of the value to that program for students. I mean, most FFA students are going on to other careers. They're not going to be working on a farm. There's students that come from completely non-ag backgrounds, go through that program and go into medical careers, into biological careers, you name it. FFA is phenomenal program.
You know, I sat with your son at a dinner recently and I tried to get a story out of him and he wouldn't even spill the dirt.
But last question, how many members in the FFA estimated country worldwide? I don't know, like,
I don't know the exact number of members,
Yeah.
but I will tell you their national convention this past year had 68,000
Okay.
youth attend.
would you say half and half female, male?
No, I'd say more female.
Okay, do you know where the first female member of the FFA was? I got this trivia from that. Belleville Henderson in the sixties.
Doesn't surprise
Yeah, that was interesting.
me. It's very-
Way too young.
But the scary part is the
Good job, sir. Good job.
sixties, it wasn't the thirties or the twenties, it was
60s.
60s.
Yeah.
That's very scary part.
Yeah, I've been thrown, I'm getting mileage out of that one. That was pretty cool.
Good word,
Yeah,
good
yeah,
word.
yeah. Okay. Done.
Jay, to his credit, his status and his notoriety around the world for being an expert in his field commands his normal speaking fee, $7,000-8,000.
Yeah.
To his credit, he did us a favor in the sense that he
Oh, yeah.
charged 4, which was half.
Under.
Under 4, all right, so anyway, he cut his fee in half. And then he came and after the fact and spent 2 sessions. Lecturing at JCC, kind of a give back to his alma mater. Plus, he took $500 and made a donation to each one of those chapters that came, right? The FFA chapters.
Yep.
So and then we had our sponsors. How much money do we raise from sponsoring that through sponsors?
$10,500.
So, I mean, this whole thing was, you could almost argue you made money on it, you know? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, technically we did off of the seminar, but we'll roll that. I don't want our sponsors to think we'll roll that money into the dairy parade, which I can use to further enhance that event. So, yeah.
but it does show the support of the community for that kind of event. Yeah, kudos.
And just as a little side note, each of the major sponsors received a banner like that one with our Grow with Jefferson County tagline on the bottom. That was there. Robin was helping me. It was her brains that were showing how to set up the display, and it looked phenomenal. When you walked into JCC that night, and you saw all of those banners lined up for each of the sponsors, it was really cool. And it helps grow the use of that Grow with Jefferson County tagline. So,
The appetizers that the culinary people put out, there was some reimbursement for that, was there not?
no, I provided the cheese. I went and purchased all the cheese and cheese curd, but the college didn't. I mean, I offered and they said, no, we'll get the rest. And they were just excited to have that opportunity to have those students do something that went beyond just classroom prep. And that's what I like to try to do with these programs as much as possible, is provide educational opportunities, whether they're ag students or just college students or whatever, educational opportunities where students can put into practice what they're learning in the classroom through what we do here.
Okay, thank you, Jay. And any other questions? Are you interested? Thank you so much. I guess manufacturing marketing, we'll couple those and
Yeah.
you'll cover both to some
Yes.
degree.
Not much report on manufacturing. We do have Career Jam coming up pretty soon, which a lot of the manufacturers attend, and it shows the day in the life of what they're doing, at their manufacturing facility. But really, as far as the council, there's not much to report there. From the marketing side, you see our annual report from last year. That it looks pretty good. You know, I thank all of the staff who proofread these things with us and help to make it a good piece. I will say that one of the best pieces of content, we used a lot of Robin's newsletter. And that it sort of creates some ready-made annual reporty type content, which makes things a lot easier as far as putting this together.
I don't want fuzzy feeling.
Yes, a warm fuzzy feeling. So thank you for all of that content, Robin, and thank you to everyone else for proofreading and helping make this thing the effective piece that it is. Other than that, not much really to report on the marketing side. We're continuing with some sponsorships with the chamber, for example, and they have their economic forecast breakfast coming up on the 12th, and I'm going to be speaking there, doing some trends in economic development, as well as just trends that we've seen in the town. So if anybody has any questions on that, or anything else, marketing wise, manufacturing wise?
I just got one question. What was the gain on property acquisition in 2022? For 118,000?
Believe that was the piece of property the city gave us for the YMCA. So that was the only property transaction.
I don't usually see a gain on an
Could it have been
acquisition.
the swap?
When you voted.
Yep.
That's no money in the bank. What I was doing.
That was a side lot at the YMCA. The side lot there.
Where the first part.
That's not bad.
Quite high.
So I stand corrected, the city did invest in the YMCA.
Anything else?
Mhm.
We done manufacturing and
Yeah.
marketing, okay, so, I think, Joy, you normally handle the ARPA in combination with Marshall, so page 25, 26.
I worked on a whole bunch of reimbursements in March, especially for tourism, so good to see those projects getting going. Especially as it's still winter apparently here. Yeah, just the levels. We've basically have the uncommitted balance is zero on the small business and incumbent worker because we're kind of like rolling some of the ones from the second into the first to get rid of those funds. And
I would like to also just comment that it was nice to see that when we do have the weather starts to turn a little bit, and I know that obviously it's turned back, but it was like it had been nice for 12 hours, and I probably got 10 phone calls from grantees saying, okay, this is what we're gonna do. We're excited about this and we're starting now. And there's been some that we've really waited for a long time, kind of too long. But it was nice to see that with the good weather, people getting excited about their projects. So I just want to mention. But we don't have any new projects to vote on this month. I do want to make that clear. We're just working through the grants and giving out awards as appropriate for the ones we've already approved.
Anything else, Joey? Thank you for the great job and keeping all of this up to date.
And I would also like to just real quickly, while we're sort of on something that Joy handles, I want to just say to the group and let it reflect in the minutes how thankful we are about Joy's tenure here at the agency. We wouldn't be where we are without her, and we're going to miss her terribly.
Congratulations on your new
Yeah,
assignment.
congratulations on that.
It's gonna be a bunch of lost sheep for.
Good segue into another new assignment. So, before us, we have our, page 27, a resolution for CEO employment contract. It's resolution 04.04.2024.01. Before I read it, Kent, you led the search committee. I don't know if you have anything else to add. This is the culmination of the works. I mean,
No, just that the search committee was highly recommended Marshall, and we're excited to have Marshall on board.
okay. So we had a process for those that didn't follow the bouncing ball, but, we went through, open search. Marshall, obviously was recommended and has, won the opportunity. He has to sign the contract yet, then it's official. So, and then we have to read this resolution, which I think these are all just making sausage right now, but, so resolution for CEO employment contract, whereas a recommendation for the board of directors to approve the CEO employment contract for Frank Marshall Weir effective May 4th, 2024, with an expiration date of December 31, 2027. And with that, I would like to have a motion to accept this resolution as presented.
So
Second. So you guys can split it.
I
I'll give it to John.
Give it
Well,
to John, he
here,
was
let
on the
him have it.
committee.
Let Ken have it.
Oh, did you say 3 people said split? I only heard these 2. See, if I sat over there, I would have heard you. I'm sorry,
it's fine.
John. We'll give it to him. I already said his name out loud. So, we have first, second, any other questions or comments? Okay, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
God have mercy on your.
Yeah. You now have to control law. Like, yeah.
I'm just glad we know his real first name.
Page 28, these are procedural things that, will happen now. So this is appointing, trustees to the pension plan. Resolution number 04.04.2024.02, where the request to replace David J. Zembiak as a plan trustee with Frank Marshall Weir, and approval to pay the $175 change of trustee fee, not to Marshall, presumably to the pension plan. And the board of directors resolved to, allow this. So, we have a resolution.
Yeah.
Do we have a Paul first?
Second.
That'd be Rob a second. Any
I have
other
a question.
questions?
I
Yeah,
do.
go ahead.
I do. We normally have a annual renewal fee. And I believe when we did this with Don, last time with Don came up and Dave came on, we did it in the same time frame, so it saved $175 because they do the trustee change during.
When's the annual, in December now, or is it October?
No,
because
no,
of our
it's-
prior,
No, this is for the pension. I think it's June or in the summertime. Do you remember?
do you recall?
Remember exactly, I believe it was.
Yeah. Yeah, so I would look to do this at the same time. Rather than spend $175 an hour and then the $350 or $400 or $500 they charge us for.
And do our bylaws allow a non-employee to be trustee? Cause as of May 4th, he's not an employee anymore. So do our bylaws allow a non-employee to be a trustee of the pension? I'm not saying
Well, our pension is at RBC.
Yes.
yes,
Make a phone call. If we have to do it, if not.
yeah,
Just
so why don't we defer this? We have till next month anyway, because the board meeting May 3rd. So we have till May 4th before Marshall's CEO, if it's allowed, we can just defer it and the non-employee can remain
Well, I'm
trustee.
not an employee.
Excuse me?
I'm a trustee. I'm not an employee.
Yeah, but you're a board director. But I'm saying,
Yes,
David,
no, I
I mean,
understand.
we can make him ex officio, we could create a position, I suppose, if
I
it saves $175, we just didn't know what the bylaw says in the pension plan.
We'll look into that.
All right, we had a first and second, are we comfortable tabling this until next
I'll
month?
move and table the resolution until.
And I'm not even gonna put council on, I'm in a position to make a comment, because you probably have to research it as well.
Yeah, I would need to.
Okay, so we will table it and we still can take action on May 3rd and be safe if we need to. Okay, are we comfortable with that? Okay. So we'll move this till May 3rd. Board meeting, authorized signers, which be page 29 of our packet. Resolution number 04.04.2024.03 for authorized signers. Whereas the following individuals were recommended to be authorized signers for all accounts at Watertown Savings Bank effective May 3rd, 2024. Robert E. Ellis Jr., David J. Converse, Frank Marshall Weir, J. M. Madison, and therefore be resolved, the Board of Directors authorized signers to set forth in this resolution. We have a motion to accept this. And then Dave,
Second,
Ken,
Quick question, is the only change Marshall's name in the list this time?
I believe so, but Jay moved up. Jay moved up.
Commercial with time.
I was on.
He was on before, so Jay moved into Marshall's position and Dave Zembiak has been removed. So kind of a little flip flop. We have first, second, any other questions? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? That resolution carries. Adjournment, motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Paul,
second,
Christine.
I've been heard.
Yeah, I heard you before, but I'm like, I'm getting simultaneous. It's funny what I can hear, and I don't even wear hearing aids. That seat is apparently in a cone of silence.
What?
I said that seat's in a cone of silence. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? The motion carries. We're adjourned. We move to our next meeting. Just as an FYI, there was a discussion at 9 p.m. It's not like a exact time certain, but we're supposed to have a call to get an update, which would have to be done in executive session. So we may take care, Greg. We may get through this and possibly even the next meeting, not likely, but around 9 a.m. we may have to interrupt the process. We are calling to order Jefferson County Industrial Development Agency April 4th, 2024 meeting. This is the revised package that we'll be working off of privilege of the floor, if any. Okay. Minutes are on page 3. If received and reviewed, I would ask a motion to accept them as presented.
So moved.
Second,
There was Lisa and then Bill. Okay, any modification, discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Minutes carry. Page 7, Paul, is the treasurer's report.
Okay. I have a couple questions that I didn't review this in a while. It was after hours yesterday. Miscellaneous income in the revenues, 25,000. This one, 20,705. That was the main change in the revenue. Revenues were up by $25,705 under miscellaneous income.
Can't remember what it is right now.
Okay. And then I had a question about, I planned my vacation, so I missed the accounting presentation last month. Do we have to do the 2 extra review of the federal grants like we did this year in our next audit? Will we have to include the audit of the federal grant funds again? Okay.
Yeah.
Will that be every year until the grant goes?
Well, in any year which we receive over 750,000. Then when it's all gone,
When they pay out.
they have, yeah.
Okay, that was just a question I had. My apologies, I didn't have a chance to talk to.
Now, the grant funds expire at the end of this year. And if there's any money left over, supposedly it goes back to the county. I don't know if that can be extended or not. That would have an impact on the single audit going forward if we don't have money.
I apologize, I didn't have a chance to get a hold of Lyle before today's meeting.
No problem.
The balance sheet looks in order with the expenses and the revenues. Takes us to the loans. The micro loans, changes in that Colleen's Cherry Tree Inn has gone to collection, which wasn't. And
It will be going, we've had some promises that I don't think he's delivered on, so
And then the Taste of Design has received a final notice, they're 3 months in arrears. And those two were about $32,000 in arrears between the two claims that have gone collection.
We made this take the design for.
In executive.
Your season is starting, so
Okay,
it might turn things around. Historically, they've been slow.
okay, and that would be it. Other than that, everything is in line with expectations. And I would request a motion to approve the treasury report.
We have a motion, or was that a motion?
I will make.
Okay, Paul, John. Any other questions, discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? We'll move forward. We have something in here for loan review, but is there any updates on alternative energy or corporate park? I can't remember who the chair of the corporate park is. I usually ask Paul.
No, it's either David or I.
I can't ever remember. I should.
Alternative energy, the only thing I would point out is I've noticed that Boralex, which is Green's Corner Solar in the town of Helmsville and Watertown, acquired a property in the town of Helmsville. I saw it in the paper for $970,000 at the end, southerly of Slater Road. So the question becomes, in our obviously they have plans to move forward. And we have, there's been no negotiation for tax abatement, so.
How big of a parcel was it? Was it 20, 50 acres?
100 and something.
So it was open.
The individual kept the buildings, I believe, and just got the land. It was part of their plan. They have also received approval from ORES to expand the project to 140 megawatts from 120 megawatts. That was in the filing.
That combines 20 megawatts from
Southern Jefferson
County. And actually, the project will now have a smaller footprint because of the new design.
Yeah,
So-
they concentrated it away from Route 3, I think. They took a parcel that was north of Route 3.
Using a new technology
on
panel.
State Road and
Higher capacity.
so, and they've increased the size of the panels. Output.
The output, yeah.
Yeah.
New
What do
technology.
some of these new legislative changes mean, like this rapid or sort of be disbanded and changed into some other new acronym?
You caught me on that one.
Okay, research them, they don't look good.
I read,
Transmission lines.
Okay,
right,
but they have to do with taking eminent domain and just dumping transmission lines everywhere to promote renewable. So I kind of like the means to the end of, hey, we can't build renewable because there's no transmission, so let's force transmission building, which I suppose is realistic, but I don't know.
the state has finalized the valuation model for
Okay.
2024. Made no significant changes other than if you look at their preliminary model and they changed the output. So they lowered the output, so that lowers the value a little bit. Boralex with a new model with land would value in the $65 million range. For a project that's probably $200 million. So.
Well, to me, along those lines, the noteworthy thing is National Grid's announcement. Of their, was it $4 billion build out?
It was a lot of money.
Which goes in, I remind people, let's back up to Senator Gillibrand's announcement at the YM on CA on Coffee Street a year ago, which was, that was multi-million dollars to make National Grid's utilization of technology, smart grid managing the power distribution grid system through sensing and reloading. So with that in place, and now this $4 billion, has everyone noticed the power truck convoys coming through this county in the last 2 weeks? Hundreds of trucks have moved north, so this transmission, to me, it's clearly, you can clearly connect the dots. It's like, we're getting ready to energize downstate New York, and it's gonna be through solar. A lot of it.
Yeah. On a
And
similar
one
vein,
last thing is I was checking on the NYSERDA page. And several of the projects have canceled their original awards. Where they applied for the rec credits or the strike price. And I believe they reapplied in a recent round, because if you recall, we had the correspondence with Boralex where they said if they didn't get an increase, they'd have to rebid it. And I believe they're rebidding their strike price or their rec credit award from NYSERDA, which I think is a mid to late May.
Which from what I understand. The governor and the energy advocates are trying to make renewable energy cheaper than conventional energy, which is kind of forcing them. Their expectations are to be able to acquire energy renewable in the 3 and 4 or 5 cents a kilowatt. I mean, that's their dream. And hence all the developers just, it's like, you're dreaming, we're out, we're not even resubmitting a request for power purchase. Now, the process you just alluded to is they pulled out and now they're resubmitting, if I understand that's right. But it ain't gonna be in the 3 and 4 cents, it's gonna be probably in that 6 or 8 cents a kilowatt is what they gotta have to make these projects flow. But what I wasn't aware of.
Just remember that the money that the state's gonna award them is coming out of our utility bills. So, I mean, it's not like they're making it
I thought
cheaper.
leprechauns and unicorns.
But whatever. And that's if I understand the little bit I found online to read about it, is they're rebidding some of these. I think Tracy rebid maybe, and I think.
Well, the offshore is also following the same. I mean, the New York State just put out a report. I think it was yesterday, the day before. It's like either 2 or 2.5 times their initial estimate. So like that's offshore wind, which there was a great emphasis to keep the traditional stuff away from, you know, population. And unfortunately, that's where you need energy, is where population is, which is where transmission comes in. But guess what? We're unpopulated and don't have transmittable power. So like we're gonna have all the transmission lines back to.
Plus our effective tax rates are lower than other areas of the state.
But if you look at those 3 main corridors that National Grid is working on with that 4 billion, they're more or less following the existing corridors and just doubling capacity through those corridors. Looks like
It's just a rebuild.
I mean, building infrastructure is a good thing. There's always not, that's the motive for this action.
One discovery that's come to my attention is a lot of these community solar projects that have power purchase agreements in that 8 cents range, maybe. They're almost getting a subsidy on, they're almost getting another 8 cents in credits from NYSERDA. So their actual revenue stream is giving them a pay price of well above 20 cents a kilowatt.
Just, one of our grant recipients, John Northrop, his project is to purchase, livestock handling equipment for sheep. And that, the purpose of that is so that he can move his flocks around more readily to solar projects. He said he's already doing this. And he said the demand for him to have flocks to go to these solar projects, he can't currently keep up with it. I did ask him if he'd ever be interested in coming in and meeting with the Alternative Energy Committee to talk a little bit more about what he's doing and just to learn more from him on how that whole process is working. He'd be more than happy to come in. I thought it was very interesting to see this, because we hear about it and, you know, I will admit I'm a little bit skeptical, but here's an example of somebody who is growing his operation, and he does sell the lambs off and so on. And there's demand for it.
I saw, is it Waddingham Road, Dave, that has a project in Lorraine?
Yeah.
They had sheep in there. I don't know, you know, you expect to see these projects mowed and stuff, it just looks like a pasture now. With stuff growing through gonna grow through the fence. I think there's gotta be, that's one way to do it, but I think there's gotta be other things. So
Yeah.
a nice one to look at is if you drive down Floral Drive, I just went down there yesterday. And they, you know, you go to the Schmo project, they have trees this tall for screening. And they put nice trees in Floral Drive, that project looks
Those
to
were
be
fixed
well
panel-
done.
Fixed panels are oscillating.
I think they're
Interesting.
oscillating on that project. Schmo was fixed, I believe. But the difference in the companies and how they did the screening to make it fit in better, the one on Floral Drive looks as nice as you could make one, I guess I should say. They're trying to screen it properly.
So that could be a demand of the planning boards or whatnot too.
Yeah.
You know, so who knows how they evolved, maybe it was one of their.
Well, it was,
like, we
Schmo
want
was the
12
first
foot
project in
trees.
the county, so I think everyone learned from that.
We learned from it, that's right.
It's kind of written into zoning. I'm going through that process now in the town of Henderson, and screening is a big deal and
Sure.
burners, and you know, if you have no rules. You do the bare minimum. I mean, that's nature, but your zoning rules have to do that. You know, last month I reported one of the things that Henderson is doing is we're creating what's called a solar development zone. So we're actually creating areas in the community. We want solar to be developed versus a developer coming in and say, I want to build there. We're choosing the act on the ground. And our qualifications are now knowing we're the strong in FFA for the female gender. We are actually removing all prime and statewide significant soils. They're not developable, period. You can't build on them. You can't build in the corridor overlay. So we've taken out all lakefront. We've taken out all of the AR40 class 1, class 2 soils, and we're taking into account what's it called? The next one, the one that you throw till in, class 3. If there's a name for it, I can't remember what it's called. Good if drained.
tile.
Something if drained. Something if
yeah.
drained. So that one, we're actually saying you can't disturb more than 30% of the surface area of that, so you can build on those areas. So they're actually taking an agrarian approach to say, we want to develop it, we want to promote it, but we also recognize farms are way more important as a resource in our community. And we want to have coexistence. So it's unique, but see where it goes.
You know, early on, we had a discussion, and I think Greg brought up that we should be identifying doing the same thing in the countywide, and I think there were maps proposed where the logical locations based upon distribution of the power would work, and it just.
There's no reason why you can't have all of that.
Yeah.
There's no reason.
But by that time, you had all these solar companies come in and tied up the land.
We had a discussion about looking at where existing access to transmission lines were, and we actually have a solar developer on our panel. And he's like, where transmission lines are now, they won't be 20 years from now. So like, let's look at, you know, where a desirable place to build. It's either flat, it's not a wetland, or it's not an existing farm. So we're taking other attributes that shouldn't change over time. And you can always, back to rapid, you can always build a transmission line or bury lines and deal with it there, so.
Sounds like this should be one of the topics at the Tug Hill Commission this year. And you've got all the right people in the room, and I don't know, maybe they are talking about something like this, but if there's.
Well, I was just going to remind the board that the Tug Hill Commission does have a technical paper that we were involved in producing. This was several years ago now, and they've done at least 1 or 2 updates to it. That does take a look at exactly what you just said. Where are the transmission corridors? Where are those soils? It's not as specific as what you're doing in Henderson, Rob, but it does help identify where are those best areas for solar development and where are the bad areas for solar development. So that exists, and if you want, I can resend a link to that report so that you have it. I've sent it in the past, but it's been a while.
It's cool. We're catching up to the developers now. You knew this was, they
I'm not-
downpour with the state, push.
I don't look at it
Finally,
that way. I look at it from zoning. You need to make things compatible. So like you have a zoning district, you can't have like a, you know, an X and a Y that are like oil and water. They have to be compatible. That's what comprehensive plans and planning are about, is compatible resources.
The problem becomes is I think we probably come close to maxing out on the community solars, which are 5 megawatts or less. Okay, the minute they go above that, your zoning doesn't mean a damn thing to the state.
No, you get back into the ores and all that other. stuff.
So, you know, for the smaller projects, what do we have? 15 of them now throughout the state? A bunch throughout the state.
The other
throughout
thing
the
we're doing
county.
too,
Yeah.
Paul, is we're actually making what we in Henderson call large scale solar. We're making the maximum lot size 5 acres, so it'll never hit that 5 megawatt threshold, never. But we're actually purposely developing solar community, no Ballard batteries. We're promoting ground mounted on farms or buildings that can be up to 200 kW or 300 kW, take up a half. So we're trying to promote on-site production on farms as a compatible permitted accessory use. And then what I'll say, community solar, 5 acre parcels, which are, tolerable, manageable. I think you dump about 2.5 megawatts on something like that. I forget what the conversion is. It's a decent sized project though.
Really, and you're ruling out right from the get-go, no battery capacity?
0.
Why is that?
It's not voted on by the town board, but don't want it. I don't know, we can ask somebody from Schmo what they think about that.
Well, but that's, I mean, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, that scenario.
You can apply for a special use permit. So all of these projects, and again, it's back to zoning. Zoning is about protecting the health, safety, and welfare of your residents. At this point, there's no good protection for battery. There's also not a need for batteries. So you can apply for what's called a use variance. Very hard to get, not impossible. So there are mechanisms to apply for things if you have a need. But at this point, that's what's written in there. It's just a committee working together. The town board hasn't voted on anything. They may say the same thing you are. You're crazy. You can't not permit something everywhere.
I think the future in battery storage are not going to be specific to solar farms. They're going to be
Exactly.
battery parks. Where the power either comes from solar or off the line, where they store it in large. Quite honestly,
One of our committee members is a large farm owner who spends a lot of time in Florida. He said in Florida, they have mobile battery storage. So they drive around with tractor trailers. They grab juice from the farm and then they go deliver it somewhere. So that's also not great for the highways because they've had some problems in Miami with those, but they have mobile battery storage, which puts the power to where it's needed. Use a community like town of Orleans. How much energy do they really need? Why do you have batteries? And if it's AC power, it loses up across the line. So like mobile batteries actually do make some sense, or DC transmission, which isn't going to happen. I mean, there are technology evolutions that we'll get to.
Yeah, but coming back to that transporting batteries. That you run,
I don't think it's a great thing.
run the numbers on that, and it's like, you got $200 worth of billable power in a battery.
Yeah.
And it's gonna cost you $500 to move it.
Yeah. I read an article this morning that tragedy in Baltimore Harbor. There are 764 tons of hazardous waste on that ship, which include lithium batteries that were going to disposal. Why they were on a boat and why they were being shipped somewhere else is beyond me, but apparently that's how they get them out of America. So they're now in Baltimore Harbor.
But those were inbound, right?
No,
They were outbound.
It was going, it
Okay.
was leaving, so it's leaving the US apparently to recycling area.
and that was my report on solar.
There is.
NYSERDA has changed their mind on the Bavaria project too.
Yeah, based on the lack of infrastructure that has recently been pulled up.
And it's a landfill to begin with. How do you build on a land?
well, they were,
In this
they weren't gonna build a landfill.
None of that footprint one.
No, because the landfill is still owned by International Paper.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the footprint of the landfill.
Yeah, the likelihood of possibly puncturing that membrane was talked about, but in this particular case with the Bavaria, they pulled up all the transmission out of the mill and then to the main line, which was a little bit bewildering. I'm sure they had their good reasons for it, but that did alter the scope of the project in the future.
Big time.
Yeah.
But coming back to the white paper from Tug Hill, which really assessed meeting New York's wishes for renewable energy 70% by 2030, 35, I think. To me, here's a pivotal point. We can meet all those goals. It's going to require 34,000 acres of solar panels with current technology.
Or just keep nuclear running. I mean, you have to do this in a non-renewable fashion. It's so biased towards renewable. We're shutting down nuclear plants in New York State, which are carbon free.
Are not
So
developing.
we're having a stupid argument because it's biased towards one solution. That's the issue with the state, is they say one thing, but they don't care about the health, safety and welfare of the people because they want to go seize land and do this and do that. I mean, hate to sound like some, crazy patriot tinfoil hat person, but
Well,
but it's disgusting. I mean, there are technologies that are proven to be carbon free and that they're not entered into the discussion.
my walkaway point is, worst case scenario, New York State gets their wishes and they get those all from solar,
Mhm.
requires 34,000
Yeah.
acres. There's over 50 counties in New York State, so that if every county were to devote 1,000 acres,
Yeah.
it'd completely meet the renewal,
So
so.
we may end up having a farmer.
You'll never
like
know
they had in
they're there.
Europe, if they all of a sudden start
Okay.
taking farmland and put trans. I tell you, I don't know who recalls, but in town of Henderson, we were talking about windmills and what incensed the farming community the most in the town of Henderson and Ollisburg with the transmission lines. Had nothing to do about seeing a windmill turning off. It was, they didn't want transmission lines in their fields and taking away cropland or their big pieces of equipment couldn't navigate. The transmission lines are probably incense, again, the farming community, because guess where they're gonna build transmission lines? Not down my street,
Not through the
not,
legends.
not through a residential area. They're gonna build it through, unpopulated areas that may be just marginal land at best anyway.
And then they sell rights to Spectrum to put cables on.
There you go.
Spectrum puts them down.
Right.
At
Well,
NFL.
let's all remove our tinfoil hats now and get back to reality. Corporate Park, anything else to update on that? Okay, I think we're good there.
Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah, sorry.
I didn't
Caught me
have
on
my
a
hat on.
good caffeinated day. Dave Converse, loan review, you wanna walk us through?
Sure,
And we got a resolution.
and I will mess this name up, I'm sure.
Good.
Isn't it?
Robin?
No, it's French, he said. Dreamy.
Dreamy.
Dreamy, yeah, something like that.
Anyway,
Very nice guy.
Call him Joey.
Great guy.
Joey.
Is he Quebec?
they're a distribution center, basically they've requested a micro loan of $40,000. Staff has recommended 40,000 at a rate of 6% for 5 years. The projection is for 2 jobs over 3 years. Basically what they do, they make fertilizer for growing cannabis.
Amongst other things, but
Amongst
yes.
other things, but that's, so what they've got a place in the corporate park. They rented from Mr. Margin. They want to expand their sales. What they're looking to do is use this money to go to different events and promote their sales. Kind of a unique thing. Seemed like they got a pretty good product. John, did you find anything more about their product, or? I know you were gonna.
I took some QR pictures.
I did have some discussion. And I guess the short of it is that it's hard to believe that their product is anything really unique. Their development period, very short. To develop anything that's outstanding. All that said, it appears to be, it's a product that really is marketed toward home growers. These kits, probably the best thing that they've done is put together these kits and, and market them as such. The other point, just to keep in mind, is that people in the cannabis business today still recognize that corporate America in the US has not really embraced cannabis as a product, and they have a tendency to shy away from anything related. And one of the comments really was related to the name they've come up with and their logo. It is suggestive. And we just need to keep in mind that I think these two kids are doing a great job. All the faith in the world, you know, that hopefully they'll be successful. But we just need to understand that, you know, it's a bit of a risk. I'm willing to support it, you know, frankly, but I just want everybody to understand that it's not as unique.
Are we gonna have an executive?
Yeah, at some point, we'll call for one,
I-
just hear as much as we can here.
I have some questions. I wasn't at the presentation. But I have significant concerns, not about what it's being used for. But some questions.
I think a couple
Happy to
things that
provide
came
more
up,
detail.
you mentioned this, but I'll reemphasize it. There is no cannabis in this. It is
Oh, no.
fertilizer.
No, it's
You can use it
fertilizer.
for tomatoes. Your grandmother can use it. It does have a unique name and it's branded towards, you know, one segment of growing a crop. And it is a legal crop in New York State. It's not legal in other states. We ask questions. Can you transport it across state lines? I mean, it's not regulated because it is a fertilizer. So it's regulated as a fertilizer. There were some other questions about,
So with this, you know, like we've said for years, that it's a micro loan. We can get their personal guarantees all we want, but they're Canadian citizens and frankly, we really don't have.
This is the highest risk loan I think I've seen since being on this board.
There's no collateral.
There's no collateral.
No collateral, no
No,
recourse,
no
no
recourse.
recourse, zero recourse.
There's no recourse.
Well, there was some talk about possibly securing assets in Canada, which we could do. We would need to engage local Canadian counsel to make sure we're properly doing that and perfecting our lien. The other idea that was tossed around too was requiring the borrower to keep a certain amount of inventory locally here, which we could certainly build into the loan docs as well. So I think there is a way to collateralize it. It's just going to be a little more complicated than it would be on a.
Something, well, you know, no disrespect, but
Yeah.
it's a $40,000 loan.
Yeah.
And if we get that much legal involved in it, you know, you're gonna take 25% of that loan proceeds or more. Pretty quick. I mean, between, you know, you and whatever legal we get in Canada or anything like that. You know,
Well,
The other thing that troubles me is it appears this isn't for building a business. It's like this 40,000 is, they want to go, their immediate needs is they're gonna develop their materials they need to go to their trade shows. And procure contracts, all right? So we're not investing in plant, equipment, materials, inventory, none of that. This is promotional materials that they're going to.
and there's gonna be no
Run
product
with a
until they
one-time
sell. Until,
Paul had a suggestion. I'll let you say it out loud because it doesn't need to be done in executive session. Yeah, it's nothing in executive session.
I would. If we're gonna do this loan, why not do it in phases? When they start getting orders, we'll give them more for more promotion.
They actually have 4 phases in here and it's possible to do like half, if their trade show pans out, and if it doesn't, then they're not in the hole, we're not in the hole. It's a
You know,
possibility.
We have 2 loans. If you go back. You know, when you look at the loans, we've either had go bad or stuff. Every other one has had either. Stuff. A reasonable set of assets in the United States that we could try to, we had personal guarantees that turned out to be not worth it. But they all had assets in the United States. These guys have nothing. We're giving them money to go to shows. If the shows don't pan out, there's no money coming in to pay off this loan. So as I said, I think this is the riskiest loan I've seen since we've been here. Now, I have no problem with the intent of making fertilizer for the growing of marijuana, I'll say it, so. But I always thought, you know, throw it in a pile of manure, it grows great. But, and the other thing is, if they're doing it for the home growers, they can grow what, 2 plants in a house?
Oh, can grow 8.
8? You seem to know an awful lot of it.
Let me tell you, for years,
Stays up on law.
the industry, I watched this whole cannabis thing roll out through New York State. And it's a classic example when you put politicians and academia in charge of an industry, it's gonna fail. And that's just what's going on with the cannabis.
Tell us what you really think.
For the last
Well-
10 years in the organic circles, the promotional opportunity in organic circles has been cannabis and hemp. And I can show you failure after failure after failure because New York State did not follow through, and continues not to follow through.
New York State currently is revisiting their whole.
Yeah. And but,
program.
you know, with the home growing, with the number of reports you read with fentanyl being infused in or being added to marijuana, that I think the home growing, the people that are going to use it are going to grow at home just because it's a safer product in their minds possibly. But I have no problems with that whole concept. I just see what's the difference between this and Miracle Grow?
Yeah, I mean, I could take the cannabis issue right out of it.
So let me,
Just look at it as a business perspective. I don't-
funny you should say that.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna have to for Harry, so if we have more, just, I mean, I wanna spend a couple more minutes on this and find a natural break.
If we're gonna go into executive session, it's fine.
No, go, because before we, leave everybody and have them cool their heels. for
Am I
15,
missing
20 minutes.
something? Are you gonna tell me?
Not really.
Okay.
I'll say it.
But
I would,
so we'll let Dave kind of finish up and we can have a good, we haven't read the resolution yet. We did threaten that we'll have to break at 9, so we're right on time. We have to go.
9 o'clock right now.
Yeah, so we have to, Harry just got on, so we're gonna go on, somebody will have to call for executive session.
I moved that we go to executive session.
One question for council, if we go into executive session to talk about Harry's update, can we also talk about this project, or do we have to name that now, since it's blanket personal financial? Can we do 2 things?
Why don't we say to discuss two?
Okay.
Yeah.
In
just
case
break-
something comes up with
Exactly.
this one after Harry, because we wanna go through stuff with Harry while it's on, I don't wanna come back.
I just want to
Session and go
cover,
back.
yeah. I want to
That's
make sure.
okay.
But there was
That was gonna
also-
be my motion.
Okay,
Excuse me, Dave, there was also Lyle thought we might need to talk about legal action against one of the 2 involved we have. So it's really 3 potential.
What I would like to do is make a motion, we go into executive session to discuss personal financial issues on several projects along with possible legal. And with that, I would ask that staff and council be present also.
can you throw in purchase property, because there's an update.
And the purchase of, yeah, we have several.
We have,
So-
so we might as well do it all at once, so I keep breaking and not.
I'll
You know that,
second
Peg?
that.
So we've got personal financial data of at least 2 projects,
Possible
Combo and possible legal, and then the potential purchase of real property.
And I will second.
So we have first and a second, all in favor, and staff and council can stay. All in favor, aye?